It's that time of year again when I look back at all the games I reviewed and pick my top 10 worst. This is always the most difficult list I do. I always take another look at the games that I reviewed and I see if they've improved or if I just kind of felt over time it's not worth it. Looking back, I want to think about my enjoyment with the title. Now, I only reviewed Nintendo Switch games, and that's all this list is going to have in it. Also, I did do a 20 review super video, and I've decided to only take one from that one. My best list might have more than one. I don't know, I haven't decided on that one yet. In case you're wondering, it's going to be number 11 on my secret 15 through 11 picks I do every year. I tend to review unknown games, but I do more mainstream as well. So if you're wondering why something is not there, maybe I didn't review it. Now look, there it is, number 11. Now once again, this is a list of games that I didn't enjoy. Everyone has their own personal taste, and maybe you might have enjoyed one of these. And that's great, I didn't. So with that said, number 10! Cthulhu Saves Christmas. This game isn't bad, just average at best. I like the parts where you're doing events or talking to your teammates, but everything else really wasn't enjoyable. It was just more okay. The dungeons were just lazy mazes to explore. The battles dragged on at times. Overall, it feels like an average game that just isn't very memorable. And because of that, it makes me wonder, why am I even bothering with this? The game feels like it was made in RPG Maker. The battle system was okay at best. The story sequences were somewhat interesting, but the level designs are where it fell apart, as they were just terrible. It had some of the worst things that you might see in a 90s Super Nintendo RPG. Winding pathways that make no logical sense, and repeating textures. The level designs were very lazy. A maze-like environment for no reason other than to extend the gameplay. Now in their defense, they do limit the number of random fights you can get into. Number 9! Super Blackjack Battle 2 Turbo Edition, The Card Warriors. This looks like it could have been fun. It tries to pull off the feel of Street Fighter by making you think you're going to battle with other players in a game of blackjack. And while it is true you do that, at the end of the day, it's just the most basic blackjack simulator with flashy looks. You don't even battle against each other. You're just in the same room. And you're given so many rounds to make more than them. It would have been nice if there were power-ups to help you, or ways to hurt the other person, but it's just a basic blackjack game. It feels like wasted potential, and it loses its appeal really fast. Here's where things kind of fall off the rails. There is no incentive not to just bet everything right away to give yourself a big lead. What happens if you lose? Well, you see the losing conversation, select continue, and you try again with another $1,000. You can do this as much as you want. They give you unlimited continues. Why not limit us to like 5 continues? Or make us earn them in the game by getting blackjacks. Throw in a joker into the mix as a wild card. Do anything to change up the basic gameplay of blackjack, but they just won't do it. Number 8. Leightons Mystery Journey, Catriel and the Millionaire's Conspiracy. This is the story of Professor Layton's daughter solving crimes. She's actually the best part of this game. The main problem with the game is the mysteries that we're solving are so boring. The puzzles that they have you solve are difficult, but it felt a bit out of place for the simplistic story they're telling. And I really didn't like the way the story was told in an episodic way. I've only played 2 Layton games, and both of them were spin-offs. One of them was a mobile game named Layton Brothers Mystery Room, which was basically just like Phoenix Wright, where instead of solving puzzles, you solve mysteries. And I thought it was okay. The other game I played was Layton vs. Phoenix Wright, which I thought was awful. It was the game that introduced me to Professor Layton, and it was also the game that made me hate him so much I almost stopped playing it. If it wasn't for the Phoenix Wright parts, which were actually pretty clever and fun, I would have quit playing it. He is an awful person. He's rude, arrogant, and overall a piece of To talk about it more, I'd be getting into way too many spoilers. But let's just say there's nothing redeeming about him in that game at all. Number 7. She Sees Red. I love full motion video games. I think being able to play out a movie has potential. And there were parts of this I actually kind of liked. The problem was the story was all over the place. And the pointless nudity was annoying. It was nice that it was fairly short, so replays were easy. But the story wasn't interesting enough to really want to replay it. The story mostly takes place in 2 time periods. One a couple hours in the past, and one in the present time. A police inspector has come on a tip that someone has been killed. And she strangely moves through the facility retelling the events that just happened here. Kind of like a psychic, and everyone just takes her word on it. It was beyond odd. The past part of the story is where most of the choices are going to show up, and you're basically deciding where the detective will go with the story in the present. Will you decide to kill someone to escape, or will you take a more stealthier action? Number 6. Instant Sports Summer Games. This is the same game as last year with just 5 extra events. Last year, Instant Sports was number 9 on my worst list, and the sequel has gone down a few slots because one of the games is basically broken now. Archery is unplayable after a couple shots because you have no way to recenter the camera. Plus the new games they've added were dull or just okay. I will briefly say though, bowling was fun, goalkeeper was dull, rafting was okay at best, baseball feels pointless since you really never feel like you have control over your swings, hurdle race was as dull as it was before, and tennis is okay. It's still near impossible to play with manual stick controls, and you're going to want to play it with the motion controls. Also, as long as I'm on the topic of tennis, something really stuck out on me on this one, and it wasn't the game, it was this guy. What the is he looking at? He isn't watching the game. Why would they add some random guy who seems to be in his own world, not even paying attention to the match, which he seems to have gotten front row seats to watch? Not that it's that hard to get seats, since there's a lot of open chairs, and all the spectators were jumping up and down so much, you would think they had hemorrhoids. Number 5, Path of Sin. This is a point-and-click adventure game. But unlike most of those types of titles, this game heavily relies on puzzle boxes that you need to find some random item to open. It had the feel of an escape room, but it was just not enjoyable. It had pieces hidden behind another locked puzzle. You know, to help you understand, it's like if you kept your car keys in a box that you could only open with a key that was kept in an aquarium, which is locked with a code that was only decipherable if you have 2 parts of a book that were kept on different sides of the house. It was to the point where you had to wonder how any of these people access their stuff with all these roadblocks. What did the builder have a contest one day? Alright guys, let's see how many hidden compartments we can put in this house. Even worse is when they occasionally have you do puzzles to unlock something. And once again, these puzzles usually only hit some random object that only slightly move the story forward. There was just way too much padding when it came to the puzzles. Although I should have seen it coming in the beginning when I was given a dossier on the people in this house and all the pictures were torn up and I needed to put them back together. What in the world? There wasn't even a story reason for this. Like the propeller cut it up accidentally. They acted like it was totally normal to have a file handed to me in pieces. They will let you skip these puzzles, which I really appreciated. I had no interest in doing them, as they were really only there to stretch out the game, and had no logical reason for even being there. Number 4. Paradise Killer. This might be the most controversial game on this list. Well, to the very few people who actually know that this game exists, of course. To the people who play this game, I either see people love it or they hate it. And I have to wonder, what do you love about it? Constantly running back and forth on an island for 10 hours, talking to horrible people, exploring an ugly pixelated world, and after all that work, finding the evidence, talking to witnesses, you just go to a trial which is very dull and it just ends? The music might be nice, and I like the overall style of the items when the description came up, but as a detective game, it's pretty dull. The main problem with this game is the story itself. Let me make this very clear. There is no good person in this. All of these people are evil. They openly talk about sacrificing citizens to appease a god. They're all obsessed with creating the perfect island, and every other island they've created has either been destroyed by demons or by the people who hunt them. While some of the characters were nicer than others, I couldn't get past the fact that we're supposed to care that someone murdered a bunch of members of a serial killing cult. Every single one of these people had innocent blood on their hands, and they had the audacity to be upset that someone killed one of their own? That's the main problem with the murder mystery. It's a mystery that I didn't care about solving. Number 3. Family Feud. I love Family Feud, but they really screwed up this one. They have a bland generic host, you can't skip the cutscenes, so they force you to watch him hype up the game in the most cringy way, and worse yet, they changed up Fast Money, so both people do it at the same time, and you find out at the same time. It's very much a disservice to an enjoyable TV show by making a bad version of it as a game. Now, one of the things I didn't understand is they're telling us that we can win $20,000, and then they pan over to a car.
The family who does the best goes on to play Fast Money and has the chance to win $20,000. Fasten yourselves in for some feuding. Let's hit it.
Are we supposed to sell this car to make $20,000? Is that like a side hustle that we're supposed to do? They don't mention that we win this car, just that it has something to do with $20,000. Number 2. Escape game, Fort Boureyard. I had no idea when I got this that it was based on a TV show. I assumed the title was like an escape room gimmick. I was not expecting a minigame collection, which feels like it would have been more at home on the Wii, in the way it looks and plays. The main story where you're trying to find the treasure is boring, and it's also pointless since when you get the money, there's nothing to do with it. They also have a board game version of this where it's just the same game, only you're rolling dice to see which game you're going to play instead. The title was just dull. Now, if you do solve the riddle, which consisted of a multiple choice question, you'll be able to grab coins from the cage and bring it back to a pot. You do this until time runs out. Now you might be saying, what can I do with all this treasure that I've now earned? The answer is nothing. It's just for show and it's totally pointless. I thought maybe you could buy new avatars or clothes, maybe even buy new minigames to play. However, I never saw anything you could do with it. I didn't even see a record of a high score. Number 1. Alternate Jake Hunter, Daedalus, The Awakening of Golden Jazz. This is the game that kind of broke me. And it's funny because I doubt most of you have even seen this review. It's over 14 minutes long, and for me, that's a huge review. It had everything that people might love. Me finding nitpicky plot holes, then going on a rant, live action sequences, and me doing math for almost 5 minutes. Okay, maybe no one loves that. There was just so many problems with this game, which is a visual novel of you trying to solve your grandfather's murder. I had to put it at number 1. This game did not understand the concept of distance. As strange as that sentence may be, it is completely true. At one point, a character wants to get coffee for another person, and they say that coffee place is right over there. Now, the words right over there would make you think he's pointing to a place in viewing distance from the conversation. No, it is not. He's pointing to a place you can't even see. The place is like 3 blocks away. If he's actually trying to see where this place is, his vision will be blocked by like 11 or 12 buildings. About an 11 to 13 minute walk to get there, depending on how quickly he can get there. Then he has to wait in line. Then he has to bring him back. So it's going to be like 30 minutes before this guy gets his coffee. I'm sure there's got to be a way more convenient place on the way. I know it was his grandfather's favorite place, but let's have a little sanity here. Now you might be saying, how could you possibly know how much time it would take to get there? Maybe the map isn't as big as it looks. And the answer is, I know, because they give us an example of the time it takes to get to multiple places, and I can add it up from there. I will get to that as well, because that had its own issues, and those almost broke me. A few minutes later, we're investigating an apartment where we find a receipt for a bakery. More than once, they make references to the bakery being far away from the apartment that they're in, because they're all thinking there might be some reason he went to a bakery so far away, until they showed it on the map. It was almost next door to the apartment complex. You could even make a case that he could see it from his apartment window. How do these characters not understand how distance works? It's almost literally next door. It's nuts. Well, that's my top 10 worst games that I reviewed this year. To end the year, in my next video, I'm going to look back and find the top 10 games that I thought were the best that I reviewed. I hope everyone has a happy holidays, and thanks for watching.